Welcome everybody into episode 4 of the Respect Coin podcast. I'm Michael Bolling, and I'm really excited to have you here again. First episode of this month-long series so far. Been having fun with it. We'll talk about some wins. Definitely got to talk about the Bears, but I've been teasing special guests, and we have our first special guest, and it's none other than the biggest bettor I know, Marco Piemonte, local guy. I'll let him tell his story, but we caught up yesterday, and I really appreciate Marco taking the time to hang out and chop it up with me. So here it is. Welcome everybody into a very special edition of the Respect Coin podcast. Got a family member of mine, my cousin, big cousin, Marco Piemonte. If you don't know him, he is a local legend, in my opinion, one of the best bettors that I've ever come around and gotten to know. How you doing, Marco?
I'm doing better now that I'm with you. And anybody questioning if we're family or not, we look the same. Don't you think any different than that? That's for sure.
I see the resemblance every time, man. It's good to see you. I know you're a busy guy, so I just want to give you an opportunity to kind of introduce yourself. Obviously, you and I have been friends for a little while now, and been able to work together. Tell me a little bit about how you got into sports betting and, how you got into this point.
Well, first off, we've been friends for a long time now, and I'm honored to be here. And I mean that. That's like a genuine, I'm happy to be here. But I got into sports betting by default. I was working in the car business. These older guys were talking about parlays, and I was like, explain these to me. And there's two guys, when people are like, how did you get into sports betting? There's two people that got me into it. One, Sam Hamad, and Mark Dazzo. Those two guys were my coworkers. They're my friends. And they showed me how to make parlays, round robin, straight bet, buy points, money lines, you name it. They taught it to me. And I might have just taken it to the whole new level. But they were the beginning. I mean, I was betting $50 a game when I started gambling, and we all know it's a little bit more now, but we still respect the coin, right?
Amen. Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, for someone that, has gotten to the point you've gotten and reeled in the wins that you have, like one of the things that I tell people all the time is like, your $50 is basically the equivalent of somebody else's $200,000. Like whatever you can bet within your means, that's how you should bet. And,
but
it's
people,
fun.
Mike, you got to remember though, I celebrate everybody's win. Whether it's, for me, it's not about the dollar amount won or risked or whatever it is. It's about what kind of odds were hit. You hit a 50-1 parlay. I'm celebrating that the exact same way that I would celebrate my own 50 to win, because that's a big deal. I've got a friend of mine. His name's Oz. Oz has hit probably 8 50-1 parlays over the last 3 months.
Wow.
And he's hotter than anybody I've ever seen. And I think to myself, man, if I was betting what he was betting, I'd be up like $20 million. But I think like that, but I celebrate his $500 wins and his $1,000 wins because, for him, that's a big deal. And I want people to understand it's not about the dollar amounts. It's about the fun. And that's what sports betting is all about, the fun of the game. And, it's like going to the movies. If I'm going to spend $20 going to the movies, well, now I'm going to spend $20 on this TNT or whatever it is, whatever the basketball game's on, and I love that idea. And that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, man. I've seen some of Oz's wins. I've been hitting him up on Instagram. He is hot these days, man. Maybe we need to tail him one day, but
I know as soon as we do, he'll lose.
Yeah, we don't want to jinx him. That's exactly how it works. So I mean, just to give people an idea, like myself and Marco worked together. When I worked over at Bleacher Report, saw him win some big money on the Super Bowl and other occasions. But I know that, a lot of people like to talk about the wins. You're someone who is very, very adamant about posting your losses. So instead of starting with the good, let's start with the bad.
Okay.
Talk to me a little bit about some of your worst beats that you can remember to this point.
I mean, I can go back very early on, and I can go through some of the bad beats that I've been through, whether it was a Steph Curry 40-point three-pointer against OKC back in the day, or even going back and saying as recent, the Super Bowl loss against the Niners losing against KC. But there's one loss that for me that sticks out in particular, and it was baseball has destroyed me. Okay. So I tell everybody baseball is Marco Piemonte's kryptonite. Okay. Especially because you can bet on it on a Tuesday when you're at work and you're like, oh, I'm going to bet this. It'll make the day go by faster. And let me tell you something. All it does is beat you up. Wait for the good sports like basketball and football. But I was doing a little bit of chasing, and I saw an Angels game, and I was like, Angels, I think they're going to beat this Dodgers team, and I really like it. And long story short, the Angels went up 4-0, and then somehow, and I have no words on how this went, but they went up 4-0, and then I started pumping my chest. After the first inning, it was 4-4. They ended up losing the game by like 4 or 5 runs. And all I could think about is I cannot believe I just lost $300,000 when I was up 4-0. And I think that's what people don't understand is gambling is, take the dollar amounts out of it. You should never celebrate early, because every time I've ever celebrated early, I usually regret it. Like I really think people need to remember, like, just to pump the brakes. It's not over till it's over. I mean, look at the Pistons versus the Heat the other night.
Yep.
The Heat were up 1 with 1.1 seconds to go. Boom, backdoor. They score that point. Boom, timeout. Eric Spoelstra, technical foul. Boom, free throw. Game over. Pistons win. I think people need to realize, like, it's never over till it's over. And I can go into a million stories. What about you, Mike? What's one of your stories?
Oh man, I've had plenty, especially recently. I had a bet. I think it was like 11-1 the other night, betting some NBA, the NBA Cup and the Knicks. I needed 15 points from Mikal Bridges to cash it, and he missed the layup, missed the jumper, and it was only 1 point, so I got killed by the hook. But everyone who listens to this show and who bets as much as kind of we do, like, knows you can't celebrate early. I think it's a great point you make. I mean, the idea of respecting coin is to respect the game, and you cannot celebrate until the clock hits 0, so that final out's recorded.
Mike, off topic, are you a fan of the NBA Cup? Are you allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I am. I'm lukewarm on the NBA Cup. I think it's interesting that you can change the courts and make the games feel a little different. What I will say is the group play kind of is confusing to me, but one thing I did really enjoy betting on last year was when the Pacers played the Lakers in the championship game. It felt like a playoff game in the middle of the season, and everybody loves that. It was a standalone game in Vegas. They got to win some money.
I can't hate that. I love when the players get a chance, especially for these guys on rookie contracts that aren't the big stars. I love the idea of giving them some extra money, but I just am not a fan of this NBA Cup. I think it's too complicated. Yep. I think they'd be better off getting all the teams together for 1 week in one location. Maybe it is Las Vegas, and creating an atmosphere. Maybe they go to a different city every year and give these people the opportunity to come in and watch, 4 games back to back to back to back, almost like an NCAA type of atmosphere.
Or like an AAU tournament?
Yeah, yes. I think that would be the better route, in my opinion. Like, I just think that, like, at the end of the day, I'd rather see these players all in one place than seeing different color courts.
Yeah.
It's just driving me nuts. Not to mention, it's hard on the eyes. Like, when I watch a Bulls game and that court's all red, I don't like it. I don't like it. I'm just speaking from the heart here.
I feel that. Well, let's switch gears to more fun topics. I've been with you, on some trips, and you've been really gracious with your time and just like letting us all hang around. But the one that I enjoyed the most was being right there in your office, in your man cave there, and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Tell me a little bit about, like, let's recap that night a little bit, because that was one of the most fun betting experiences of my life.
The last leg of a parlay, to have it be a basketball game, it is such a boxing match, because every bucket you're stressing, right? With football, you drive downfield, you score, you get a chance to reset, you go to the bathroom. With basketball, it's 6-0 run, 8-0 run, 7-0 run. It's chaos. And I try and explain the type of dopamine that flows through the body when you're wheeling home that type of parlay, especially with your friends. There's nothing better. Yeah. You can make love to your spouse. It's nothing like, I'll give it all up. I'll give it all up for a year to feel that energy for one night. I don't think people get it. It's the best feeling in the world. And what I love about it is winning is great, but winning with your friends is better. And I say surround yourself with people that want you to win, whether it's gambling or whether it's in life, because I've noticed that through the years I've lost some friends, and it hurts because you miss those people, but maybe they weren't there for you the way that they thought you were. And I think that needs to be a reminder that, yeah, winning parlays is fun, but make sure you're winning at life too. And that's why betting within your means is so important, and making sure you're not doing stuff that's going to hurt you or your family. I just wanted to make sure that when I came on the show today, I said that because I love pumping people up. I love people chasing the big wins, but I don't want them to chase themselves into a spot where it could be bad. So I'm trying to be like that voice of reason in the betting community. I think, and I this is the only time you'll hear me stroke my own ego. So I'm 5'8". Okay, I got to do it once in a while. But long story short, I am the godfather of sports betting. I believe that, like, when it all became legal, I was the one in front, and I want to make sure it's around for a long time. So I will continually give healthy advice like that and do my part to make sure that people are happy and doing it the right way.
For sure. No, you've always stood by that ever since we met and started hanging out. Like, you've always been about it. So I can vouch for that. And it's important, right? Like, I think all of my favorite wins have come when I'm betting with my friends. I was out in Arizona with a bunch of the boys, and we all bet on Ohio to beat Virginia in the NCAA tournament, and we got kicked out of the bar because we were being too rowdy. Like, those are lifelong memories that we'll never forget. But
that's a core memory for sure.
100%. That'll never go away. But yeah, so tell me about some of your biggest wins. I mean, I know the Timberwolves one was a huge one. We were all together, but I just want people to know, like, the gravity of, some of the things you've wheeled in.
Biggest win, $3.2 million. I've had multiple now. I got to say, through the ups and the downs of the gambling world, the big wins aren't even the most gratifying. For me, it's the wins that people tell me I'm going to lose. Those are the best. Like, when I have people come and send me wild stuff during a game, and then the team that I bet on comes back and wins, it's for me, that's the best feeling in the world, because when everybody doubts you and you prove them wrong, those are the ones that feel the best.
Absolutely.
Plus, I gotta say, the betting community, there's a very great community. Like, it's a very great community, but there's like 5% of the betting community that is very toxic. Mm-hmm. And when I get to be toxic back and be like, hey, you have to eat everything you said, and then watching them unsend messages, you're like, like, you're a clown, erased. I fade you and I win every day, erased. Like, to me, it's the best. And the funny part is Instagram's like a snapshot of my betting life. Okay. And if people only knew, like, okay, yeah, you're right. On my show, I went, 5 wins and 4 losses. I made 25 other bets. Like, do you understand? It's like a business model. Like, I fire if I see edge, or if I see an advantage to take, I take it. And that's what people don't get. Like, I shoot a show once a week. It's fun. I'm going to be able to have guests on there now. And I'm going to make it special, but, like, it's a snapshot. Like, if people came and sat in my room with me on a Sunday, they'd get it. Like, you'll hear me talk it out. Like, oh, boom. For instance, yesterday, I saw the Pistons miss their 2 free throws to win the game. I instantly bet the Bucks. I said, they just choked. The Bucks are going to win. Trust me, they're at home. Easiest win of your life. It's minus 180 in overtime. Lock it in. They won by 7. It was over in the first minute of overtime. It was over. Like, those are the wins that people don't see. And I think that's got to be that's a reminder to the toxic of the betting community. Or the unit shamers. You know all about that.
Yeah, that's one thing that we're not going to do around here is unit shame anyone, because to me, like we said earlier, like, you bet within your means. A win is a win. If you hit a 50-1 with $5, that's still really significant. So I agree. I agree for sure. So what's next for Marco Piemonte? Like, what's the next betting goal for you?
The next betting goal is I need to go on a run to end the NFL season. And whether it comes in one big pop of $5 million, but I need to win $5 million before the end of the year. And I'm talking, like, I'm not saying just, I need a net $5 million. So I'm going to do my best. I've been kind of back and forth ping-ponging throughout this NFL season. I'm down a little bit. I was up about $3 million at one point. Now I'm down a little bit. Wow. But I've got a big bet going in on the Buffalo Bills this week. I'm taking them minus 130 for 260,000 to win 200,000. I love that play. And I'm going to try and spin that. Sometimes you got to just start with one and then fire from there. And that's kind of what I'm going to do. I'm going to hit this bet, and then I'm going to take 50, 100,000 of it, put it on a 10, 15 to 1, bang, try and hit that. And I always say, when you get hot, you got to roll. Like, don't just fire. Don't hesitate, fire. And when you hit that wall, pull the reins back. And that's what I plan on doing. That's my goal. That's what Marco Piemonte is going to be doing next.
That's awesome. Well, now I know I'm betting the Bills this week. That's going to be a lot of fun. It's the middle of the afternoon. That's a standalone game. They're playing the Chiefs. Everybody wants to see. I think that one thing we can talk about on the way out, man, like, are you a believer in the Chiefs? Because I think they've been getting a little lucky.
Okay, so it's no secret that I bet against the Chiefs a lot this year. And for me, I see the flaws in the team. This Chiefs team reminds me of the Eagles last year. Remember where the Eagles were like 10-1 or 10-0?
Definitely. Yep.
And it reminds me of the same type of situation. There's so many flaws in this team, and their defense is okay. I'm not discounting their defense. Their offense has a lot of flaws. Yep. If you lock down Kelsey and you contain Mahomes and don't let him run around with like a chicken with his head cut off, you're going to win the game. And the Broncos aren't even that good, and they were about to win, and the blocked field goal stopped it. I see the Chiefs getting humbled, and I'm not saying that they're going to make the playoffs. The Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. The NFL needs it, Yep. But I don't think they're as good as everyone says, and I mean that respectfully. Now, could they, make some changes? Sure. I don't see what I've seen in the past out of that team. I think they're missing something. I don't know, but I'll tell you this. I'm betting against them hard this week, and it's not fun. It's not comfortable. I can feel the heart pumping already. But I'm taking it, and we're going to rock and roll from there.
I love it, man. Well, listen, I really appreciate you joining me. I think you dropped a lot of knowledge in here, and obviously we'll be on the lookout. You have your show. It's out already. So if you're not tuned in to Marco's weekly show, definitely lock it in. His handle's right there. You can find him at Marco Piemonte all over social media. The best better to me. And, we really appreciate you, man. I appreciate you jumping on, and maybe we'll have an opportunity where I can come on yours and we can talk some more.
Nothing would make me happier than having you on my show, and I'm always available for anything you got going. Love you, brother.
Love you, brother. Thank you, man. Thanks so much to Marco Piemonte for jumping on the podcast. It was awesome to have him as our first guest. I mean, who else could you start with? The dude is just full of energy. He respects coin. And I got to say, I'm kind of feeling that Bills pick this week, so I've locked that in. But appreciate you, Marco. Go follow him. It's at Marco_parlay on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, if anyone's even still there. And he's Marco Piemonte on Instagram. He's got his own show. It's a great show. Definitely subscribe to him and Tony Sharp giving out winners. So appreciate you, Marco, for hopping on. But let's get into it. It's Friday. We have a lot of stuff to cover. First and foremost, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The good, the Bulls bets cashed again last week. We were betting on the Bulls-Hawks game. I told you to take Trae Young's assists over. That cashed. I told you Vooch would definitely be rebounding that night. He did. The parlay I had in was Trae Young, 12 assists, Vooch, 10 boards. That cashed. I saw some people hit me up that they played it. I also told you to take the over. That definitely hit. More on that to come a little later. The bad, the Bears parlay and the Bears plays just did not hit. And it did end up being rock bottom for this team. I told everyone to be cautious. That line was super fishy, and we saw the results. So I'm not going to harp on it. We've talked enough about the Bears, and we will get into this week's rivalry matchup with the Packers, which leads me to the ugly, and I'm going to stay right here. The ugly has been the Chicago Bears and betting on them in general. Everything that you've bet on Bears props over the last 2 or 3 weeks has not hit. I don't know. I mean, if you've hit something from the Bears, please hit me up on social and let me know what you had, because I've been trying to rack my brain and nothing's been working. So that's been the ugly, but I do think things change a little bit. There has been some change around Hallis Hall. We'll get into that a little bit later. Quickly on the Thursday night football tip, Commanders, Eagles. I put down the numbers before the game started. The sharps were all over the Eagles -3.5. 69% of that money was on the Eagles, and 70% of the money was on the over. And I don't think that hit. It's 48.5. Let me do my quick math. I believe the final score was 28-16. Let me confirm that. And yes, so if you had the over, you did not hit. But some interesting stuff from this game that I saw. I think the Eagles definitely, when they're engaged, are one of the better teams in the NFL. The rushing attack with Saquon Barkley is outrageous. I mean, one thing I'll say, Saquon is not getting talked about enough as an MVP candidate. The dude is doing everything for this Eagles team. They run the ball more than anyone in the league. And if he didn't have Jalen Hurts as his quarterback in the tush push, he might have 15 touchdowns this year. So I'll be looking into what the MVP discussion is looking like. Is there value on Saquon Barkley? And I know it's a quarterback award, so there probably isn't any value, but he should be talked about more, man. He's making, home run plays. He scored twice last night. I'm sure someone had 2 touchdowns. I did not. But a fun game overall. I think the Commanders are pretty damn good. I think the Hail Mary situation that they had with the Bears does not feel like their best ball. I also feel like that's probably a good sign for the Bears defense. They kept that offense off the board until the last 6 seconds of the game. So off the board in terms of touchdowns. But I do have someone I want to mention from this game before I move on, and that is Jake Elliott, the Philadelphia Eagles kicker. First of all, he might be the most Philadelphia-looking player on the Eagles. I don't know if that lands for anyone. I'm a big Always Sunny fan. He kind of looks like the guy that did the shushing in the episode where Charlie and Dennis go absolutely nuts trying to find this guy at the gym bar. Real Sunny fans know what I'm talking about. But despite him looking like he was born on Broad Street in Philly, the man almost made the coin disrespecter of the week, and all he was doing was the opposite of his job on Thursday Night Football. He was missing kicks early. Game should have been a little more out of hand. If you had the over, you probably hate Jake Elliott right now, because I think you missed 3 kicks and an extra point. That's 7 points. That puts you over. So Jake Elliott almost made the list. I cannot put him on the list. I didn't have a bet on him, but the Eagles also covered. They won and covered. If they didn't, my goodness, you would have been our coin disrespecter of the week. But we move. We have a big week in Chicago sports. I think the Bulls play tonight, Friday. They play Sunday. The Hawks play Saturday. The Bears are on Sunday. Tons of stuff for us to look at. So let's get into it. First, with the Chicago Bulls preview on tonight's game. Tonight, they take on the Cavs. This is the second game against the Cavs this week. The Bulls covered in the last one. I was in attendance for the game. They covered. The spread was 8. Now, this is an NBA Cup game, and I'm going to get into why this makes things a little different a bit later, but because it's an NBA Cup game, please check your apps. All of these apps are offering profit boosts for your bets, and some of which I know DraftKings has a pair of profit boosts. So if you like using these profit boosts, definitely take a look. Don't bet anything before you check out what you get. I know everybody gets different. Some people get 50%, some people get 20%, some people get no sweats, but there are profit boosts all over the place. There's a huge slate of NBA tonight for this NBA Cup, so check it out. Make sure you use that because you're going to just increase your opportunity to win more money. So Bulls at Cavs, really interested to dig into the numbers, and the spread right now that I'm seeing on DraftKings is plus 10.5 to the Bulls. Now, you're probably asking yourself, why this number looks like this. If the number was plus 8 earlier this week, the same teams, no significant injuries, just playing on the road in Cleveland. And I think that's really where we'll start. It's a road game for the Bulls. Cleveland, obviously a very tough place to play, especially when you consider this team has not lost a game yet. They are 13-0, and I don't know, man. I think they kind of flew under the radar this offseason. One of the things about the Cavs that is interesting is they have a very strong starting five and a very strong bench. And this team has played together for a few years now. I think a lot of people were concerned whether Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell would be able to coexist in the backcourt. And it's looked really, really good to me so far. They've kind of cleared their roles. So this is a really tough team. This is a team that's going to be atop the league most of the year. They're off to an insane start with a 13-0 record. But let's dig into some of the splits. 56% of the money and 56% of the public bets are on the Bulls, plus 10.5. You might be surprised. I was a little bit surprised when I saw that. But you got to think that Vegas and the public, especially people in Chicago, are probably thinking this can't last, right? I'm not sure what the longest win streak to start a season is. I could have researched that. I didn't. So that's your homework. Go ahead and check. But my guess is a lot of this money and the bets are on the opposite team because people are just waiting for the other shoe to drop. Personally, I don't think that shoe is going to drop tonight, but I've been wrong. I've been surprised by this team. I didn't think they had a real shot of making a ton of noise in New York. And obviously they pulled that out. Really thrilling game if you didn't watch that Bulls-Knicks game. But tonight, I'm not going to bet the spread. If I were to bet the spread, I would take the Bulls because it's just a lot of points. But my focus is going to be on the total. So 89% of money is on the total, and that total is 237.5 points. You might think that's a big number. We've cashed around that number last week with the Hawks game, but 89% of the sharp money is on the over. And I can't stress enough why I feel like as soon as you hear me say this, go to your sportsbook and bet it now, because only 52% of the public is on the over. And what I don't think people understand about the NBA Cup is your tiebreakers come down to point differential. So this is not going to be a take the starters out game. The starters are going to stay in long. They're going to shoot until the last bucket is, until the last buzzer sounds. So I'm going to take the over. I'm pretty confident that these teams' defenses won't be as engaged, but I do think there's going to be a lot of scoring. So if you're listening to this and you're trying to find reasons or why to bet this game, I think the most fun thing you can do is bet the over and just hope for points. I mean, betting unders is pretty tough in basketball. You're hoping for bricks. This is not one of those situations. I am taking the over 237.5. And as soon as you hear me say this, I would go take a look at it because my guess is this number is going to move a little bit. Totals don't ever move too much, but I do think the public bets are going to get in line with the sharp money. Almost 90% of the big bettors are on the over. So I think that's a smart bet. Finally, talking about the money line, 63% of the sharps are on the Bulls. Excuse me. So this is reinforcing what I was saying earlier. I think that a lot of teams or a lot of people are thinking they got to lose eventually, and the Bulls played them kind of tight. Could be some recency bias there. I don't personally believe the Bulls are going to win, but I hope they do, and I hope they keep this close so that we don't have massive blowout potential. Keep it close, score a lot of points. Let's cash the over and start our weekend right. Let's move on to the Bears. Oh my. Our lovely, wonderful Bears. My goodness. It's just hard as a Chicago sports fan to wake up every Monday and lose money and scratch your head why you keep putting money into this product. But listen, I've said on the Charter podcast, which is hosted by Clay Harbor and Alex Shapiro and Ruthie Polinsky, all the homies, they do a really good job. I filled in for Alex the last couple weeks, and I feel like I've been a jinx because they've lost the last two in dramatic fashion. So I will not be on the show this weekend, which probably makes me feel a little bit better about the Bears' chances. But Let's talk about the spread journey and some of the numbers. The Bears and Packers spread opened at Packers minus 6.5, which I thought was a very fair number after the result against the Patriots. I think Vegas was probably waiting for someone to get fired, demoted. That did happen. Shane Waldron no longer in as offensive coordinator, and we moved to someone named Thomas Brown. Now, if you don't know who Thomas Brown is, he worked as the assistant head coach for Sean McVay. He worked in Carolina with Bryce Young. Definitely widely regarded as someone with a good reputation among the players and a bright creative mind calling plays. So we move into a new era as this Bears team tries to get themselves out of the dirt. I do think what I've heard from Thomas Brown this week has been really interesting. He said, Matt Eberflus is asking for more creativity on the offensive side. That's what we're all looking for as fans. And I do think, Thomas Brown is going to demand a little more accountability than Shane Waldron has. It sounds like the players are behind him. So I'm optimistic cautiously. That does not mean I'm going to be betting the Bears to win. I do not see that happening, and I'll tell you why in a little bit. So digging into the numbers, this might be a reason why, if you're someone who is not as jaded as I am, you might want to take a look at the Bears, because I mentioned the spread. It opened at 6.5. It is now down to 5 on DraftKings, which is a very interesting sign because 92% of the money and 83% of the public are on the Packers spread. So those are pretty lopsided odds. I am, by fault, sometimes a fade the public guy. This kind of falls into that narrative with my favorite football team, but I'm not taking the cheese. I'm just telling you right now, I'm not going to be betting the spread because I do not know that I am confident the Bears will win this game. As for the total, 76% of the sharp money is on the under. Weather looks pretty mild for a mid-November day, but the total's 40.5. I could definitely see a 21-20 game, but new offensive coordinator, defense trying to just tighten their things up. Packers coming off a bye week, so they've had some time to prepare, which obviously scares me. That's one of the big reasons why I will not be betting the Bears this weekend. But this, for all intents and purposes, is a shock the world situation if you're a Bears fan. If you have the fortitude to put your hard-earned money on the Bears this weekend after what you saw the last 3 weeks, be my guest. It's kind of a buy the dip situation as well. But I don't think that I will be taking any money on the spread. Might throw the Bears in a random underdog parlay just for the hell of it, but I will play some props and I'll talk about that a little later. Truthfully, I will be at the game. I'm really excited to go to the game. I always say that before I go, and then I come home on Sunday nights and I'm really mad, but Soup Sunday always saves us, so shout out to Soup Sunday. But yeah, I will not be taking the Bears this weekend. Like I said, though, this is a buy the dip situation. If you are a homer like I am and you feel like you want to put your money on them, be my guest. We might see something different. I am pretty much just depressed on how the season has gone so far. So I'm just going to try and enjoy it as a fan. Packers week doesn't need any extra juice. It's going to be pretty rowdy at Soldier Field. I'll be in the South Lot. So if you're in the South Lot, if you're listening to this and you're going to tailgate, hit me up. We'll be in the South Lot having some fun, having some beers before the game. Let's move on. Doing something different this week on this section of the show. I did mention Jake Elliott was basically honorable mention for Coin Disrespector of the week. We will not have an official Coin Disrespector this week because no one really went above and beyond on the negative side. So we'll have 2 Respect Coin award winners this week, and the first happened on Tuesday, and it was in the NBA. So the first time Klay Thompson returns to the Chase Center out in San Francisco, played for the Warriors his whole career, won a bunch of championships, one of the iconic players in that franchise's history. He's now on the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavs and Warriors squared off in an NBA Cup game on Tuesday, which ended up being a really damn good game on TNT. And there was tons of hype around it, right? Like when players return, they do the video montage. I thought the Warriors did a great job with that. The video was awesome. They gave out Captain Clay hats, so there was a bunch of sailor hats in the crowd, and you could tell how emotional Clay was before the game. But one thing I noticed was there wasn't a lot of talk in the media. There was a lot of, this is just another game, which is all BS, and we know that. So there was hype externally, didn't seem like it internally, and that game delivered. But I was mentioning to the guys in the office, Kev and my producer EP, I'm betting 5 threes each. It's a Splash Brothers parlay. I love a narrative, and man, that was one of the most fun cashes ever. I don't know if anyone watched the game, but we got a Curry 3, a fadeaway, late in the clock, late in the game, and we got the night celebration. That shot cashed the 5x5. It was plus 495 on DraftKings. So shout out to the Splash Brothers, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson. They are the coin respecters of the week to me, especially with a game like that has so much hype. What a finish. We needed it. I mean, Klay did his job. I think he hit 6. I did have a 6x6 that didn't cash, but beggars can't be choosers. Curry struggled a little bit in the second half, knocking down threes, but as we've always seen, he always shows up at the end of the game. He's as clutch as they come, and he's so hard to guard. So shout out to the Splash Brothers, the coin respecters of the week. And I got a late entry. I'll call it honorable mention, but just to keep in theme with the narratives, Zach Ertz reminded everybody in Philly why he was so good and why he is a legend there. I'll say it forever. You'll hear it a ton on this show. I love betting narratives, and the narrative was easy. Zach Ertz, first game returning to the link. And he had an awesome game. He had 6 catches, 47 yards, and a touchdown. Cleared all of his numbers. So Zach Ertz, I'm sure that was an emotional game for him. Definitely respects coin. He came through. He was basically the security blanket for Jaden Daniels, who played a pretty decent game. But I could tell that the focus from Cliff Kingsbury and the Commanders was to get him involved. It was a big night for him. So shout out to Zach Ertz, another coin respecter this week. Now let's get into the plays. The plays we have for this week, going to keep it a little light, and we'll have our first hockey play of the year. Shout out to my boy Joe. He is a listener. One of my go-to guys when it comes to hockey information. Played hockey at Lewis. He put in our group chat very early. I think it was yesterday, so Thursday. If you want to bet anything on Saturday, take Connor Bedard. He's going home to Vancouver. And listen, we're covering these guys. The Hawks are off to a decently surprising start. They just fell in Seattle. And one of the narratives this year so far is that Connor Bedard is just not finding the back of the net. He's assisting on a lot of goals, but not scoring them himself. What better way to break out of the slump than a little home cooking? He's going to Vancouver. They're playing the Canucks. So I'm taking this hometown narrative, and I'm going to bet him to score a goal. I'm not sure what the odds will be. You'll have to check for that on Saturday morning. But when it drops, I will be betting it because good narrative, good opportunity to buy low. Hasn't scored in a while. And yeah, I do think he's going to have a good game. He'll want to play his best in front of a lot of friends and family at home. So Connor Bedard, anytime goal scorer against the Canucks. Let's move on to the Bulls. I mentioned a lot about this matchup. I was pretty surprised when I punched this in, but little quick parlay, 2 legs, keeping it simple. I'm just doing Spida, Donovan Mitchell, 20 points, and Zach LaVine, 20 points. It's plus 108 on FanDuel. You're getting plus money on this. I do think the numbers might move a little bit, so lock it in if you want that plus money. The idea here is simple. Spida could have had 40 if he wanted in that game earlier this week on Monday. He had 20 something in the first half. I think he kind of scores at will against our guards. I do think we'll probably see more IO on Donovan Mitchell earlier than we did in the last game. IO will help kind of neutralize him a little bit, but Donovan Mitchell is one of the best guards, scoring guards in the league. He's going to be able to shoot from three. He's going to be able to get downhill and get to the free throw line. And he's ultra aggressive. He kind of looks a little different this year to me. I think the Cavs in general feel like they may have been overlooked, and they're off to the best start in the league and hold the top spot as undefeated. But on the other side, Zach LaVine has been 100% a bright spot for this Bulls team. I think a lot has been made about his effort over the years and whether or not he's invested in this team, if he wants to be traded, blah, blah, blah. You can say whatever you want. I'm not here to kind of get into that. What I'm here to tell you is the dude is a certified bucket getter. He has been awesome. He's been scoring from all levels, at the rim, fadeaways, mid-range jumpers. He's been making threes. He's also been doing a great deal of assists and rebounds. So he's stuffing stat sheets, and he's playing just as well as Vooch is playing. And for my seat, feels like good opportunity for other teams in the league to take a peek. But I know that this matters a lot to Zach to continue to kind of, insert his name into the Bulls record books. I mean, he's up there in a lot of categories at this point. So just to put a bow on it, doing Donovan Mitchell 20 points, Zach LaVine 20 points. It's plus 108 on FanDuel. I think both of them are going to be able to score at will tonight. And the total is super high, and I think it'll probably continue to go up. NBA Cup game, they're not going to pull the starters. The point differential matters. This is a good spot to lock in a points bet. I've been posting some of these plays on my Instagram, and if you knew me previous to this job, I worked at BR, and I had a couple insane runs betting first baskets. I keep getting random messages and comments on these posts saying first baskets, so I'm locking in a first basket play for tonight's Bulls and Cavs game. And if you've seen these before, I play both sides because somebody's got to win the tip. Somebody can miss a shot. Two players are in play, so one from each side. So first, not getting too creative, taking Donovan Mitchell. They ran a play for him in the first matchup at the game we were at. He got a really good look from three, and he just missed kind of badly. I do think he is very aggressive to start these games, so I'm taking Spida plus 500 on FanDuel. And on the other side, kind of throwing up a little bit of a prayer. I don't think the odds match what I think the Bulls are trying to do, but Kobe White is plus 1,100 to score the first basket, so I'm taking that. He did have an open opportunity in this last game against the Cavs. Patrick Williams made a dish to Josh Giddey instead, who got a layup. But at plus 1,100, I just like the value. One of the things we know very well about Kobe White is when the ball touches his hands, it sometimes feels like a black hole. So maybe the ball bounces his way and he puts up a three and knocks it down. So those are my two first basket plays. Donovan Mitchell, plus 500. Kobe White, plus 1,100. Taking some chalk, taking a long shot. Hopefully we can cash this right away. And finally, the Bears. Back to the Bears. I'm someone that's a little stubborn, so if you're feeling like you're going to be surprised to hear one of these plays, you're not. I think the most important player on the Bears offense this week is Cole Kmet, and I'm going back to the well. He should have cashed the 2.5 catches last week. He had 3 straight targets in one drive, and one of the passes just went sailing over his head. Caleb didn't make a good throw, and I know it was windy, but over 2.5 catches is minus 120 as a standalone. I'm locking that in, and I would lock that in if I were you as well. But the official play, Cole Kmet over 2.5 receptions, and Caleb Williams to just throw 1 touchdown pass. It's plus 161 on FanDuel, and here's why I like it. Reasons I mentioned Cole Kmet, the security blanket aspect of this is going to be huge. I know that Caleb has to make some more of these throws. I don't think we're going to see a ton of downfield passing game. I think they need to really get their feet under them. I think they're going to run the ball a lot and set up some play action, and I think that's where Cole Kmet can thrive. So I'm not worried about the 2.5 catches. I think he'll catch that easily. And for the touchdowns, this feels a little bit like a disrespectful line. I do think, like I mentioned, they will run the ball a lot, but I don't think they're going to be winning late. So there's going to be a lot of opportunity for the game script. And Caleb's just got to find the end zone. It can be Cole. It can be DJ Moore. I don't care how it happens, but one touchdown pass is not something that should feel like a sweat in an NFL game in 2024. So Cole Kmet, over 2.5 receptions, plus Caleb Williams to throw one touchdown pass. Like I said, almost 2-1, plus 161 on FanDuel. Lock it in, and let's have some fun on Sunday. So that's what we got. Really fun episode. Shout out to Marco again for jumping on the pod. It was awesome to have him as our first guest, and I'll continue to reach out to people that I know in the industry, people that I know that are bettors and have a fun, unique story to tell, because we all do, right? This is about betting, and it's about building community and respecting coin. That's the name of the game. So I'm MB. This was fun. Lock in the Bulls bets, lock in the Hawks bet. Connor Bedard will score, and lock in your Bears bets before Sunday. Wishing you guys the best. Hope you get some dubs. Hope you win your fantasy leagues. And I'll see you again next week. Thanks for listening.